So Dylan, it's so nice to see you again
Nice
for the
to see
second
you,
time
yeah.
at the Miami Book Fair, promoting your new book. I just love it. It's all about traveling.
It is.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the book before we go to the questions?
Sure. This is a follow-up to the bigger adult Atlas Obscura
Yes.
book that came out a couple of years ago. And this book, it works in a little bit of a different way. So rather than just being sort of encyclopedic, it's actually kind of one adventure all over the world. So you start in one place, you start in Tennessee with these synchronous fireflies, and then on the theme of bioluminescence, then you sort of takes you around the world to New Zealand, where you see these glowing fungus gnats. And so you get to sort of jump from place to place all over the world along these unexpected kind of connections.
And the illustration is just beautiful.
Joy is
Amazing.
incredible. Joy Ang, who illustrated it, is
Yes.
unbelievable.
So the first question is, as a kid, what destination inspired you to spread your wings and just travel?
So, as a kid, I wasn't traveling the world. I didn't have a passport until I was
There are many that are like that.
Yeah, it took a while. But I did do these road trips with my parents as a kid in the Midwest, which is where I grew up. So, we take these really long car trips.
Road trips are fun.
They are fun. And we stopped at a place when I was 12 in Spring Green, Wisconsin, called the House on the Rock. So the House on the Rock, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's really in the woods. And it has this kind of great origin story, which is there was this architect, Alex Jordan Jr., and he wanted to work for Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright actually has a big building out there, Taliesin.
Okay.
And he went to Frank Lloyd Wright. It probably didn't happen, but it doesn't matter. It's a great founding myth. So he went to Frank Lloyd Wright, and he showed him his plans, and Frank Lloyd Wright said, I would not hire you to build a cheese crate or a chicken coop, and sent this guy on his way. And so this guy basically decided to get architectural revenge, and he built this weird, crazy house, which I sometimes...
Architectural revenge.
Yeah. I've been calling it a Frank Lloyd wrong.
Okay.
But it's this weird house, but then he just started adding more and more stuff to it. So inside of this house, by the time I got there, when I was 12, it took about 5 hours to walk through the entire place, because it's actually all these different buildings now. And inside this house is the world's largest carousel, the world's most diverse set of carousel animals. There's a hallway that...
Inside the house?
Inside the house, there's a hallway that looks like it goes on for infinity. Inside the house is a great, crazy optical illusion. And there's a sculpture of a squid fighting a whale that is the size of the Statue of Liberty inside this house. Those are a few tiny little things. And I just remember, at the end of this, being like, what is this? And also kind of if this is what's in the woods of Wisconsin, which is not a place that you think of as maybe filled with incredible sights. Yeah, what else is in the world? So that's definitely
interesting.
Left an impression.
So it gave you that interest to find out what odd things are out there.
And it took a while. It wasn't like I was 12, so I went back and did homework and whatever. But yeah, it started that, and I've been back a bunch of times. And it's still so weird. It's
Very
such a
nice.
great place.
Well, talking about youngsters, the next question is, with social media now that we have, there's more exposure of the world and its natural beauty, or maybe oddities.
Yeah, well,
here and there,
all of those
all
are
together.
I celebrate all of that.
From your research with the book and your travels and so forth, would you feel more youngsters would be more inclined to travel based on social media, since they're on their phones all the time?
Yes and no. I mean, I think all of our interconnectedness, it is beautiful and amazing to get to see more of the world and celebrate more of its plurality and its diversity. But I mean, I think the thing I've been telling kids when I talk to them is that, well, there are all these wonders. This is about things in Australia and Peru and Indonesia, although also in the U.S. And I just remind all of these kids that it's not about going halfway around the world. It is about finding these kinds of stories and wonders that are right in front of you. You don't have to go more than 50 miles. Literally, there's never been a place where I go and I start looking, because I always give them examples of places near them, and I'm like, oh, there's nothing interesting here. There's always something. And a lot of it's about how you frame it and looking for the stories and being curious. So I would hope that, more than anything, seeing some of this stuff starts kind of that sense of wanting to know more, wanting to understand more, and that helps begin a process of actually being curious and exploring wherever you are. It's less about travel for me and more about creating a framework for looking at the world.
And but this is just a little extra. Talking about road trips, because you're talking about when you were young, and like you said, you don't have to go to the other side of the world.
No.
As parents, because especially, you know, if you're counting your pennies and you have kids, but you
Tell
want
me about it.
No, not for you. But
no, but yes, yeah.
Exactly. So you do want to expose your children, right? Because going back to social media and not keeping them cooped up, glued to a phone, expose them to what's out there. You don't have to travel across the world, but you could get in a car.
Yeah.
And just, even within your own city or in the outskirts of your own state, just take your kids and adventure. And open their eyes to more than what they know within the house.
Yeah.
Or in their neighborhood.
You can go into like the closest woods you have and like go try and get some mycologist, some fungal expert to go and show you all of the different mushrooms that like grow in your area, or like learn a little bit about entomology and find out about like what are these bugs. Like you could spend an entire life exploring a single backyard. Do you know what I mean? Like you could, the world has both infinite depth and kind of infinite breadth, and so it's like, it's all about how you approach that exploration and less about kind of like, oh, I've got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you don't have to save big money.
Yeah, exactly.
You can do it in your backyard, and
you really
teach
can.
your kids
You really can.
to enjoy the outdoors and enjoy the beauty that nature gives us.
Yeah,
and that's part of the exploring and traveling in a way. Travel to your backyard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's right there. So close.
Thank you so much, Dylan. This was a pleasure again.
Likewise.
And I hope, I think all the kids, we told friends that have kids about this book.
Oh, cool.
To enjoy it as well.
Good. So, Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome.